Have you noticed how you can want something with your whole heart, and then the second it's offered to you, your body tightens like you've done something wrong? It can be as small as someone saying, "Let me help you," and you hear yourself replying too quickly, "No, no, I've got it." Or someone offers you a compliment and you laugh it off, deflect it, shrink it, turn it into a joke. Or you finally get the opportunity you've been hoping for, and instead of letting your chest open, your mind starts scanning for what could go wrong. And the strangest part is, you don't even always realize you're doing it. It happens faster than I thought. Just a little flinch, a little bracing, a little "I can't." If that's you, I want you to hear this clearly. You're not broken. You're not ungrateful. You're not bad at manifesting, and you're not failing some spiritual test. You've been carrying something, and you've been carrying it for a long time. So before we go anywhere, let your shoulders soften just a little as you hear that, because a part of you has been working very hard to protect you, and protection always has a history. Sometimes the fear of receiving looks like hesitation. Sometimes it looks like independence so strong it becomes isolation. Sometimes it looks like overgiving, because giving feels safer than being seen needing anything. Sometimes it looks like, "I'll do it myself," even when your body is begging to rest. And yes, I said begging, because your body has its own wisdom, and it knows when it's tired of bracing. You may have told yourself you're just being responsible, or humble, or considerate, and maybe you are. And there's also something deeper happening underneath. Because for many people, receiving didn't feel like softness when they were younger. It felt like obligation, like debt, like the beginning of a bargain they didn't remember agreeing to. It felt like, "If I accept this, I owe you," or "If I accept this, you'll expect something," or "If I accept this, you'll have access to me." And when you've lived with that kind of wiring, even kindness can feel like a trap. So of course you flinch. Somewhere along the way, receiving got linked to danger, and you didn't choose that link on purpose. It was built in you through moments your nervous system never forgot. Maybe you had to earn love. Maybe you were praised only when you performed. Maybe help came with strings. Maybe generosity was followed by criticism. Maybe someone gave to you and then reminded you of it again and again until receiving felt like being owned. Or maybe you were the one who had to be strong, the one who held everything together, the one who noticed what everyone else needed, because no one was really noticing what you needed. And if you were that child, that young soul who learned to stay alert, to stay capable, to stay fine, receiving now can feel unfamiliar, even if you crave it, because receiving requires something that survival doesn't. Receiving requires trust, and trust isn't a thought, it's a sensation. Let that settle for a moment, because this is important to hear. You don't have to predict the future. You don't have to brace for loss. You simply pause, breathe, and let one sip in. And in that sip, something in you will recognize. This is what it feels like to be supported. This is what it feels like to be included. This is what it feels like to stop surviving goodness. Your heart already knows this. You were never meant to push away what you prayed for. You were meant to hold it, to receive it with dignity, to receive it with choice, to receive it without fear and without hesitation. And if you're not there yet, that's okay. You're on your way. Because even the fact that you're listening to this, even the fact that something in you is asking for a new relationship with receiving, means the door is already opening, gently, quietly, like dawn arriving without force. And in that space, you can begin again as you are. What if this isn't about your worthiness at all? What if it's about your nervous system learning a new definition of safety? You can believe you deserve love and still tense up when it arrives. You can pray for support and still feel panic when someone offers it. You can want abundance and still feel guilty when money comes easily. You can long for intimacy and still feel exposed when someone sees you tenderly. That doesn't mean you're a fraud. It means your body learned long ago that goodness often came with a cost. So your body tries to protect you from the cost, even when the goodness is real. And I know that can feel heartbreaking, because you might look back on your life and realize how many times you turned away what you truly wanted, not because you didn't want it, but because you didn't feel safe holding it. If you're feeling a little grief as you hear that, you're not imagining it. That grief is honest. It's the grief of a heart that has been reaching and retracting for years. And yet here you are, still searching, still open, still willing to look gently at this. That takes courage. So let's talk about the quiet ways you block what you're praying for, not because you're ungrateful, but because you've been trained to brace. Sometimes it's the, I don't want to be a burden reflex. Sometimes it's the, other people need it more than I do reflex. Sometimes it's the, I didn't do enough to deserve it reflex. Sometimes it's the, if I accept this, I'll have to keep it reflex. And that one is tender, because it often hides fear of loss. Have you noticed that? How receiving isn't just about taking something in. It's about what you believe will happen after you take it in. Because if you believe receiving will be followed by disappointment, your body will hesitate. If you believe receiving will be followed by expectation, your body will resist. If you believe receiving will be followed by judgment, someone watching you, measuring you, your body will tighten. And if you believe receiving will make you vulnerable, and vulnerability once meant danger, your body will do what bodies do. It will protect you. So the first shift isn't, I need to force myself to receive. The first shift is, I need to make receiving safe. Not safe as a concept, safe in your chest, safe in your throat, safe in your belly, safe in your skin. And you can do that slowly, honestly, without pretending. There's a difference between receiving and taking, and your heart already knows that difference even if your body forgets in the moment. Taking is when someone's yes isn't present. Taking is when you override. Taking is when you grasp. Receiving is when life offers and you allow. Receiving is when someone gives freely and you let it land. Receiving is sacred consent on both sides. And that's why you don't have to fear becoming too much if you receive. You're not taking from anyone. You're participating in the natural flow of connection. But I want to name something gently here, because for many people, the fear of receiving has a hidden twin. The fear of receiving is often also the fear of being seen, because when you receive, you're visible. When you receive, someone notices you. When you receive, someone is close enough to care. And if closeness once meant being controlled or criticized or hurt, then receiving can feel like opening a door you worked very hard to keep locked. So if your mind starts saying, I don't want to depend on anyone, I want you to consider what you really mean is, I don't want to be hurt. And that makes sense. Your heart already knows this. You don't fear help. You fear the price your past attached to help. You don't fear love. You fear the way love used to change without warning. You don't fear compliments. You fear the way praise used to be followed by a demand. You don't fear ease. You fear that ease won't last, and you'll look foolish for trusting it. That's the tenderness underneath. And we can meet that tenderness with respect. When you receive from life, you're not becoming dependent. You're becoming connected. There's a difference. Dependence says, I can't. Connection says, I don't have to do everything alone. Dependence collapses the self. Connection strengthens the self through support. And the truth is, the strongest people are not the ones who never need anyone. The strongest people are the ones who can say, yes, thank you, without shame. So let's begin with something very simple, not dramatic, not complicated. I want to give you a practice for the exact moment goodness arrives so it can land without triggering shame. Because the moment is where everything changes. The moment someone offers help. The moment you're given a compliment. The moment the opportunity comes. The moment someone reaches for your hand. The moment life gives you a little gift, a little ease, a little yes. Here's what most people do in that moment. They go up into the mind. They explain. They justify. They negotiate. They deflect. They apologize. And that's because the mind is trying to regain control. So instead, we're going to do something else. We're going to go down into the body. Next time something good comes toward you, pause. Just one breath longer than you normally would. That's all. One breath longer. And in that breath, see if you can notice where your body tightens. Is it the throat? Is it the chest? Is it the stomach? Is it the jaw? You don't have to change it yet. Just notice. Because awareness is already a form of safety. Then very softly, place one hand somewhere on your body. Chest, belly, throat, wherever feels natural. You can do it subtly, even with just the fingertips. And in your own inner voice, say this: thank you. Let me let this in. Not, I should let this in. Not, I must accept this. Just, let me let this in. And as you say it, imagine the receiving doesn't have to happen all at once. Imagine you're not swallowing a whole ocean. You're letting in one sip. That's how your nervous system learns. Small sips. This is important because some people try to force receiving like it's a personality upgrade, like it's a performance. And then their body rebels. So instead, you're going to practice receiving like you'd practice trusting an animal that's been hurt. Slow, consistent, kind. Now something might arise right here. You might notice a voice that says, I don't deserve this, or I didn't do enough, or they're just being polite, or I'll owe them. And this is where you become very loving and very honest. You don't argue with that voice. You don't shame it. You don't try to think positive over it. You simply respond with a new truth. Thank you for trying to protect me, and I'm safe right now. That phrase can change everything, because the protective part of you doesn't want a lecture. It wants reassurance. It wants to know you're present. It wants to know you're not abandoning yourself. It wants to know that receiving won't make you disappear. So you can say softly, I'm here. I'm safe right now. I get to receive in a way that honors me. And then, in the outer world, you practice one brave sentence. Yes, thank you. That's it. Not a paragraph, not an explanation, not a reason. Just, yes, thank you. Let that settle for a moment, because if you've been deflecting for years, those two words are a doorway. Yes, thank you. Do you feel how simple that is and how big it can be? Now I want to open a loop gently because there's something most people don't talk about when it comes to receiving. And it's this: the fear isn't always about the giver. Sometimes the fear is about who you become when you receive, because receiving changes you. If you receive love, you might soften. If you receive support, you might rest. If you receive ease, you might stop proving. If you receive abundance, you might stop struggling. And some part of you has built an identity around proving, around pushing, around I can handle it. So receiving can feel like losing yourself. But what if the self you're afraid of losing is T, he self that had to survive? What if the self that's emerging through receiving is the self you were always meant to be? Remember what I mentioned about safety being a sensation? Here's the piece that changes everything. Your capacity to receive is not a moral issue. It's a nervous system capacity. It's like a cup. If your cup has been small because you learned to brace, goodness pours in and spills over, and your system says, too much, even if it's good. So we're not trying to deserve more. We're expanding your cup. We're increasing your capacity to hold goodness without panic. And there are 3 places this tends to show up most: receiving love, receiving support, receiving abundance and ease. Let's talk about receiving love first, because this is where many hearts tremble. Receiving love without fear often means receiving without testing. Do you do that? Do you test people without meaning to? You might not call it testing, but your system might do little things like pull away and see if they follow, stay silent and see if they notice, act fine and see if they ask again, overgive and see if they appreciate you. And if they don't, the old story confirms itself. But here's what's tender. You're not testing because you're manipulative. You're testing because you once learned love could vanish. So you try to control the vanishing. And yet, control is exhausting. So what if receiving love is allowing it to be present without demanding it prove the future? What if you practiced letting love be love today without forcing tomorrow? This is where your breath becomes medicine. Because when love arrives, your body might tighten as if it's waiting for the other shoe to drop. So you breathe and you say inwardly, I can let this be here. Not forever, not guaranteed, just here, now. And if fear arises, you don't make fear wrong. You place your hand on your body and you say, I know, and I'm here. Do you remember the last time you felt truly seen, not for what you do, but for who you are? If that feels rare, it may be because you've been hiding your receiving self. You've been showing people your giving self, your capable self, your strong self, and hiding the tender place that actually longs to be met. Receiving love begins with letting yourself be the one who longs. That's not weakness. That's humanity. Now let's talk about receiving support, because this is where the I don't want to be a burden pattern lives. If you've been craving solitude intensely lately, or feeling unusually sensitive to other people's energy, it's because your system is reorganizing itself. It's learning to come home. And when you're in that reorganizing, support matters. But support can feel humiliating if you learned that needing anything made you too much. So I want to offer you a reframe that your heart may recognize right away. Receiving support is not asking someone to carry your life. It's allowing someone to stand beside you. And there's a huge difference. When someone offers to hold a door open, you don't say, no, I insist on opening it myself to prove I'm worthy of walking through it. You walk through, you nod, you receive. Support is like that. And yes, some people have experienced support being used as leverage. That's real. So receiving also requires discernment. You do not have to receive from everyone. You get to choose whose help actually feels clean. Clean help feels spacious. Clean help doesn't demand repayment. Clean help doesn't make you small. Clean help doesn't come with a story about how lucky you are. Clean help feels like dignity. So part of opening to receive is learning the difference between support and control. And your body is brilliant at this. When support is clean, your chest may soften. When support is not clean, your stomach may tighten. This is not paranoia. This is wisdom. So you can practice receiving from those who feel safe and setting boundaries with those who don't. That is sovereignty. Now let's talk about receiving abundance and ease, because this one is sneaky. Sometimes you can receive love, you can even receive help, but when life gets easier, you get uncomfortable. You might create problems, you might overwork, you might spend impulsively, you might find something to worry about, because your system equates struggle with safety. Struggle is familiar. Ease is unfamiliar, so ease can feel like waiting, like something is about to happen. So you fill the space. Have you noticed how everything shifts the moment you stop trying to control it? And yet, control feels like the only way to prevent pain. This is where we bring compassion. Because you didn't choose struggle as your identity, you adapted to it. If you grew up in chaos, calm can feel suspicious. If you grew up with unpredictability, stability can feel boring. And then you feel guilty for that too. So I want you to hear this. You are allowed to have a peaceful life. You are allowed to have moments that are uncomplicated. You are allowed to receive without paying for it with exhaustion. And if your body doesn't believe that yet, it's okay. We're teaching it. One sip at a time. Now I want to share a brief story, because sometimes a story lets your heart relax into truth. I once knew someone who had been independent her entire life, fiercely capable, the one everyone relied on. And one day, she got sick. Not seriously, not dramatically, just enough that she couldn't keep pushing the way she always did. A friend offered to bring her food, and she said no 3 times. Finally, the friend showed up anyway and left a warm meal at her door. She stood there holding the container, and she started to cry, not because of the food, but because something in her realized how long she had lived without letting anything be that simple. That moment didn't fix her life in a day, but it cracked something open. She began to practice receiving in tiny, ordinary ways. And it changed everything. You're being offered the same kind of doorway right now. Sometimes our breakthrough isn't a huge spiritual revelation. Sometimes it's letting someone bring soup. Sometimes it's letting someone listen without you rushing to say, "I'm fine." Sometimes it's letting yourself rest without explaining why. And this is where the deeper fear underneath receiving often lives. What you believe receiving will cost you. Because many people secretly believe If I receive, I'll owe. If I receive, I'll be controlled. If I receive, I'll disappoint. If I receive, it won't last, and the loss will hurt more. If I receive, people will see me, and then they'll leave. That last one is tender. So let's meet it. If you believe people will leave once they see you, you might keep them at a distance by never receiving. Because receiving creates intimacy, and intimacy is where the old wound lives. So what if receiving is not just an external act? What if receiving is an inner repair? What if every time you let something good land, you're teaching your inner world, goodness can be safe, love can be clean, help can be offered without a hook, I can be seen and still be respected, I can be cared for and still be free. Your heart already knows this. You were not designed to do life alone. You were designed for connection. And connection is not weakness. Connection is how the human soul stabilizes. Now, I want to give you something practical for the places where fear shows up most intensely, when you're offered something you actually want. Because sometimes receiving is easy with small things, but when it's the big thing, the relationship, the job, the opportunity, the money, the dream, your system panics. So here's a grounded practice you can use when the big thing arrives. It's called receive in thirds. You don't have to take it all in at once. First third, receive the fact that it's here. Just acknowledge, this is here. Second third, receive the feeling that arises. Whatever it is, joy, fear, disbelief, guilt. This is what I feel. Third, receive your own presence. Place your hand on your body and say, I am with myself in this. And then you respond from that place. Not from the flinch, not from the old story, from presence. Because presence is the part of you that can hold both joy and fear without collapsing. Now I want you to imagine something with me. Imagine you are standing in soft rain, not a storm, just gentle rain. You can run from it, tense your shoulders, clamp your jaw, and make it an enemy, or you can let it touch you. Receiving is like letting the rain touch you. It doesn't mean you lose yourself. It means you stop fighting the sensation of being met. And that's what receiving really is, allowing yourself to be met. Met by kindness, met by love, met by life. What if the thing you've been calling your greatest weakness is actually the doorway to your power? Because your sensitivity, the very part of you that flinches, is also the part of you that can feel truth. And that sensitivity doesn't need to be hardened. It needs to be held. Now let's deepen this one step further, because there's another layer many people don't realize. Sometimes the fear of receiving isn't just fear of others. It's fear of your own desire, because desire can feel dangerous if you learn that wanting leads to disappointment. So you stop wanting, or you pretend you don't want much. or you keep your dreams reasonable. And then life offers something bigger, and your system says, no, that's too much. Not because it's too much for you, but because it's too much for the version of you that learned to survive by staying small. So I want you to practice saying this, even if it feels unfamiliar. It is safe for me to want. Let that land. It is safe for me to want. And if your body tightens when you say it, just notice and breathe. You might even add, it is safe for me to want, and I can go slowly. Because the goal isn't to force desire into a system that's afraid. The goal is to make room for desire gently. Now I'm going to name 3 common receiving blocks, and as you hear them, notice which one feels like it's been living in your bones. The first is guilt. You receive something good, and guilt rushes in like a shadow. Guilt says, who am I to have this? Guilt says, others have it worse. Guilt says, I didn't suffer enough to earn this. And guilt can sound noble, but it often hides a belief that joy must be justified. So here's a softer truth. Your joy does not require permission. Your ease does not require a sacrifice. Goodness does not have to be paid for with pain. You can care about the world and still receive what is meant for you. In fact, the more resourced you are, the more love you have to give without depletion. The second block is distrust. Distrust says, where's the hook? And sometimes that's wisdom, because some people do have hooks. So your practice becomes discernment, not suspicion. Discernment says, I can feel what's clean. Discernment says, I can say yes and still have boundaries. Discernment says, I can receive without surrendering myself. And the third block is unworthiness. Unworthiness says, if they really knew me, they wouldn't give this. And that one is the deepest, isn't it? Because unworthiness isn't a thought you have. It's a feeling you carry. So let's speak to it the way Louise would, with warmth, with truth, with gentleness. Somewhere deep inside, you've always known you are worthy. You may not have felt it. You may not have lived from it. But you have known it. Because worthiness is not earned. Worthiness is your birthright. You were born worthy of love. You were born worthy of care. You were born worthy of goodness. And the parts of you that doubt that learned to doubt it through experience, not through truth. So when unworthiness arises, you don't fight it. You meet it. You say, I see you. And then you choose, softly, a new statement. What if I told you? You don't have to prove your worth to receive. Feel your breath as you hear that. You don't have to prove your worth to receive. Receiving is not a reward for perfection. Receiving is part of being alive. Now, I want to bring this into your daily life, because this is where the real transformation happens. It's not in a big moment where you finally accept something once. It's in the small moments where you stop apologizing for existing. So here are a few everyday receiving invitations you can practice gently without making them into pressure. When someone compliments you, practice, "Thank you, I'm letting that in." When someone offers help, practice, "Yes, that would support me." When someone offers kindness, practice, "I receive that." When life gives you a small win, practice, "I can enjoy this without bracing." And notice what happens, not just in your mind, but in your body. Does your chest soften? Does your throat open? Does your belly relax? Or do you tense? If you tense, don't judge it. Just breathe, hand to body, and say, "I'm safe right now," because the goal isn't to never feel fear. The goal is to not obey fear automatically. The goal is to pause, to feel, to choose. And this is where your power lives, not in becoming fearless, in becoming present. Now, I want to return to that open loop I mentioned earlier about who you become when you receive. Here's the deeper truth. When you receive without fear, you stop living like love is scarce. You stop living like you have to earn every breath. You stop living like you're always one mistake away from losing everything, and you begin living like you belong. Belonging is a frequency. Belonging is a feeling. Belonging is the quiet inner yes that says, "I am allowed to be here." Receiving nourishes belonging, because when you let goodness land, your system starts to recognize, "I am included, I am held, I am part of life." And that changes the way you walk through the world. You might start to notice in the coming days that you don't rush to explain yourself as much. You might notice you let someone do something kind without turning it into a transaction. You might notice you breathe a little deeper when something goes right instead of waiting for it to go wrong. And if you do, please honor that. Those are not small things. Those are signs your inner world is opening. Now there's one more piece I want to name because it's the place where many people get stuck. Sometimes we think receiving means saying yes to everything. It doesn't. Receiving is not people-pleasing. Receiving is not allowing disrespect. Receiving is not accepting crumbs and calling it a feast. Receiving without fear includes the courage to receive what is aligned and to decline what is not. Because when you say no to what diminishes you, you make space to receive what honors you. So you might practice this as well. No, thank you. That is a receiving statement too. It says, "I receive my own discernment." It says, "I receive my own authority." It says, "I receive my own worth." And that's the kind of receiving that creates real freedom. So let's integrate everything we've touched very simply. Receiving without fear is a pause, a breath, a hand to the body, a soft inner reassurance, a clear outer yes, thank you. It's allowing goodness in small sips. It's letting your nervous system learn that the present moment can be safe. It's remembering you are not in the past anymore. You're here. And you have choice now. And if the fear feels big sometimes, that doesn't mean you're failing. It means you're healing. Because healing often looks like feeling what you used to numb. Healing often looks like noticing what you used to do automatically. Healing often looks like a deeper honesty with yourself. And if you've been carrying this for years, your heart deserves patience. Let that settle. Your heart deserves patience. Now, I want to offer you one touchstone phrase to carry with you, something you can return to when the flinch arises. Here it is. It is safe for me to receive, and I can go slowly. Say it in your own inner voice. It is safe for me to receive, and I can go slowly. This is not a demand. It's permission. And permission is powerful, because when you give yourself permission, your body relaxes. When your body relaxes, your heart opens. When your heart opens, life can meet you. And that's what you've been longing for, isn't it? To be met, not chased, not tested, not earned, met. So as we come to a soft close, I want you to imagine something simple. Imagine the next time someone offers you something kind, help, love, a compliment, an opportunity. You don't have to decide your whole life in that moment.